Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am excited to share a project that features the brand new Jeff Alpha from Pinkfresh Studio. It's a part of their November 2022 release. I love this die set. It is such a fun, modern font. You can do so much with it. And I thought I would quickly walk you through the entire release from Pinkfresh Studio. There's some great stamps, stencils, coordinating die cuts. I really do think there's a little something for everyone in this release. And if you're interested in checking out the entire release, I will have a link to that in the YouTube description below so you can check that out there. But what I really want to focus on today is this Jeff Alpha die set. It is so cool. It has not only the letters, which feature this really cool etched design, but also the shadow layer as well. This really makes this die set super versatile. And today I'm going to show you how to create a two-tone die cut effect with these letters. I'm going to create kind of a half wood and half colored look. It's going to look almost like a dipped piece of wood. So I'm starting out by cutting some squares out of white cardstock that measure 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to take my colored cardstock, and I'll have all the colors that I used in today's project linked below as well. And I'm going to cut those into 1.5 inch strips as well. Now, I thought about 5/8 of an inch made sense to me as to how much color should be on the bottom. So I'm taking those 1.5 inch strips and I'm cutting those down into 5/8 inch strips. And of course, if your alphabet is bigger or smaller, you can adjust these widths to whatever you want. Now I'm taking this wood veneer cardstock and I am trimming it down to about 7/8 inch. And then I'm going to take all of these colors of cardstock and I'm going to adhere them to the white squares. So I'm putting the colored cardstock along the bottom of the white square. I'm covering the entire square with a little bit of tape runner adhesive. You could use a sheet adhesive or a liquid glue if you would prefer, but remember, you're going to be putting this through your die cut machine, so you don't want anything that's going to gunk up your dies too much. Now, once I have the colored strips along the bottom of each of these white cardstock squares, I'm going to go back and add the wood piece along the top. So just like you're creating a striped cardstock piece, you're going to butt that wood piece up right against the colored cardstock so that there's no seam there, or there's no gap there, I should say. There will be a seam. And then I'm just going to trim off the excess and move to the next square. So now I have all of these squares with a little strip of colored cardstock along the bottom and that wood cardstock along the top. Now I am taking the letter dies. Now this isn't the shadow portion, this is the actual letter. And I'm lining them up on those squares with the bottom portion overlapping that colored portion. So I just kind of did my best to get equal amounts of colored cardstock on all of these letters. And then I'm going to run them through my die cut machine, and I added my metal shim to my die cutting sandwich. And I ran this through my Petal Pink Gemini Junior from scrapbook.com. I absolutely love it. And the motor on it is so much quieter than my last Gemini Junior. So you can see all of my letters are die cut, and then I took the shadow layer and I die cut each shadow layer from some gold cardstock from Concord and 9th. And now I'm adhering my two-tone or dipped looking letter onto that gold cardstock base. And that's just going to give it a little bit of oomph when I add it onto my card. Now, while that's drying, I did put a couple acrylic blocks over the top just to make sure that everything maintained good contact with that slicker cardstock that's underneath, because that gold cardstock tends to be a little less toothy than a regular cardstock. And now I am taking a piece of antique ivory cardstock from Hero Arts and I'm placing it into my Misty stamping tool. I'm using the new You're the Best stamp and coordinating die set, and I'm going to do a little tone-on-tone heat embossing here on this ivory piece of cardstock. I've inked up my stamp with some Versamark ink. I prepped my panel with a little bit of powder tool, and then I'm going to stamp that down and add some detail white embossing powder and heat set that. Now this is going to be a very subtle effect, but it's going to add just a little bit of floral texture behind my letters, and I think it is the perfect touch. It's so hard to pick it up in a photograph, but in real life you can just see that little bit of floral texture and pattern coming through, and it's really beautiful. So I just repositioned that stamp so I could get a little more stamping along the top of this panel, and I'm going to repeat that process. By the way, I did die cut this panel using the diagonal stitched rectangle dies from Pinkfresh Studio, and this makes a perfect mat on an A2 size card. So now that I have my panel created, I'm going to go ahead and start adhering my letters, and I'm using a Misty sticky mat because that gives me a really tight grid that I can kind of line things up on. And then I'm going to also bring in a T-square ruler and kind of make sure as I line up my letters on this panel that the bottoms of those letters are straight. And then I know everything's kind of not going wonky on me. So you're gonna see that as I put these on, I can use the slip and slide of that liquid glue to kind of position them a little bit better and just make sure, like I said, that I have everything in place. Because this card is so clean and simple, it really does matter that you get them things on kind of relatively straight. And no, this is not perfect by any means, but I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that I just do this with a little bit of precision. So now that I have my letters on the panel, I can lift it off of that sticky mat, and I am going to use this You're the Best stamp set, and I am going to white heat emboss it onto vellum. So I'm following those same steps that I did before, just prepping the surface of my vellum with a little powder tool, inking up my stamp with some Versamark ink, and stamping that onto the surface of the vellum. Then I'll add my detail white embossing powder and heat set that. I'm going to die cut these out, and I am going to use them kind of as an overlap behind that panel. It's almost going to give a lace-like effect on my card base. My card base is made from some heavyweight white cardstock. It's cut to 5.5 by 8.5 inches and scored at 4 1/4 to create a side folding A2 size card. And as I mentioned before, these vellum heat embossed florals are just going to stick out from the panel and add a little texture to the card. If you didn't want to heat emboss these and die cut them, you could stamp them directly onto the card base using a light gray ink, and that would give you a little texture as well. So once I have the florals in place, I went ahead and added that panel using some foam adhesive to give it some dimension, and I'm going to trim off the excess of all of these vellum florals that I have hanging over the edge of my card base, and that finishes off this card for today. I absolutely love these two-tone die-cut letters. I think they are so much fun. It almost gives you like a dipped paint look. And I think the combination of those bright colors with this kind of blonde wood cardstock is so much fun and so modern looking. And you can see the little etching marks in these letters here in the detail photos. I think this Jeff Alpha is a winner. Now, because I love this alpha so much, I'm going to be back tomorrow with another card project featuring this brand new Jeff Alpha. You better snag this one while you can because I have a feeling it's going to sell out fast. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in this project in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. Or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below as well. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, a complete list of supplies, as well as information on a blog hop that is happening celebrating this brand new November 2022 release from Pinkfresh Studio. As always, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here on my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.